Welcome back to the Too Fast channel. Today we're going to be doing a upgrade on my 2008 Volkswagen EOS VR6. I'm going to be replacing the OEM steering wheel with a OEM Volkswagen GTI steering wheel, a Mark 5 steering wheel, which you're looking at right at the moment. Now I picked this up off of eBay. This ran approximately, this cost me $270 plus shipping, and it was a brand new steering wheel. So there's a seller on eBay, I'll put the link in the description, who had a bunch of these, and he's got 5 left at the time of this video. Depending upon when you're watching this video, they may be all gone or not. If you have a GTI, a Mark 5 GTI, and you need a new steering wheel, this is a nice option. Or if you're upgrading the steering wheel from another Mark 5 series vehicle and you want the more ergonomically shaped perforated leather flat bottom steering wheel that the GTI has, this is also another option. This particular wheel has the DSG paddle shifters on it, and it has no radio button controls. Now that may create a problem for some owners of Mark 5 Volkswagens who have the integrated steering wheel buttons, like myself, for example. But that's not really an issue. So there's several things I'm going to do to the steering wheel, and I'll show you this wheel compared to the one that's in my car. I haven't got it off the car just yet, but I'll show you that shortly. One thing I'm going to do is this emblem, which says GTI. I'm obviously not going to put this in my EOS. This thing is just pressure fit. It comes out. It's not glued in. There's no screws. You can just use a plastic pry tool and pry from both sides here, and it should come right off. I don't believe it's a problem removing this with the airbag on, even, because there's no locking tabs or anything that the airbag would lock into that would prevent you from removing this. So the one on my EOS just says V6. That's what I'm going to put on this steering wheel. And I've already taken that off. I've already also, you can see there are no push button controls on here, but these look like blanks, but there's actually something in there because this ribbon cable and the paddle shifters plug into it. The ribbon cables come down to this module right down here. And there's a single torque screw that holds these on, and you can remove these. Like, I've already removed the screw, and this piece is just pressure fit, and you can remove this, and you can remove this. So all of this comes out. So these are our pieces that are not going to be usable for my installation. Now, there are some part numbers on this module, and obviously the module like this that's in my existing steering wheel has a different part number on it. I have no idea if I could just plug in my radio control buttons into this module. No clue. And information on these types of parts is very hard to come by. So I'm just going to remove this entire assembly and remove the exact same pieces from my steering wheel and install them in this one. So that's basically the process here. That's the stage where I'm at right now. So and just some other views of it. This is definitely a brand new steering wheel. It's never been installed. Sitting on some dealer's shelf for many years, and they decided to clear out some inventory, would be my guess. So, and this is not a refinished steering wheel. This is a brand new steering wheel. So let's take a look at the OEM EOS steering wheel, and we'll take a look at the differences. All right, well, here's the two steering wheels side by side. I did some preliminary measurements. Both of these appear to be approximately 14.5 inches in diameter. So it's not like the GTI steering wheel is a much smaller diameter. A lot of times when you go with a smaller diameter steering wheel, that can create visibility problems to some of your gauges, because the top part of the steering wheel will block the gauges. With a tilt telescoping type of steering column, you can normally mitigate a lot of those issues. Big difference here is the flat bottom with the GTI steering wheel, like mentioned. You've got perforated leather in this area versus, this is all smooth leather. It's not really ergonomically designed. There's a small kind of recessed cut right here for gripping, but nothing like the GTI steering wheel. And of course, you've got a round bottom here on the EOS steering wheel, flat bottom on the GTI. Now, the VR6 EOS is the top of the line EOS model. These cars were available with synthetic leather and real leather. The top of the line models had the real leather, so this happens to be one of the steering wheels with actually real leather. Hard to tell the difference between the synthetic and the real leather steering wheels, but and of course we've got the V6 emblem down here, which is going to be moved over, and then our push button controls and our module right there. So other than that, all the different cutouts, the plug for the to plug the airbag in, they're all, it's a Mark 5 steering wheel. Paddle controls are basically all the same. So that's those are the differences. So I'm going to move these over. This isn't something I'm going to waste your time with showing on the video. You've got a torque screw here and a torque screw here. These controls kind of lift out like you saw earlier, like I did on the GTI steering wheel. You unplug the paddle shifters, carefully remove the ribbon cable, remove this emblem first. This piece is just pressure fit, so you can use a plastic pry tool, just pry it up. It's not screwed down, it's not glued down, she'll come right out. And I'll transplant this whole thing over to this wheel. And that'll probably take me 15-20 minutes or so. And we'll come back and we'll take a look at the GTI wheel with the new pieces installed shortly. Okay, I removed the controller module and the buttons from the EOS wheel. Those go in fine. The DSG paddle shifters, the plugs are identical, the wiring is the same, they plug in just fine. These ribbon cables, there's a small little channel right here that the ribbon cable slots into, and then there's little tabs right here, and you can bend this material back, and the tabs catch the ribbon cable, so the ribbon cable is nice and organized in there. So I want to make sure that you do that correctly. Get the DSG paddle shifter wires, which are green, black, and gray, plugged in correctly and tucked back underneath the button controls. And make sure that this little module down there is fully seated. And that's basically all there is to it. Now I'm actually going to put this on without the airbag and turn the car on and test the buttons and make sure that everything works. And chances are when I do that, I'll probably get an airbag light on the dash because I'm not going to hook up the airbag. So if you decide to go that route, keep in mind you might get an airbag light, and then you'll either have to use VCDS to clear the airbag light, or take it to somebody who has a system like that can clear the airbag light for you. So just keep that in mind if you decide to go that route. I don't want to put this all back together and then find out that something doesn't work right for some reason on my part, and like I screwed something up. So I'm just going to test it to make sure. I don't expect any problems, but I'm just going to double check it. Last thing to do is the V6 emblem. Where'd it go? All right, let me do this. So this is this is the GTI emblem for you. Those of you who have GTIs, you can be familiar with that. And this is the V6 emblem that's off the VR6, which is what I'm going to be using. And that's just pressure fits and just snaps into place. Make sure it's fully seated. And that's basically it. So that pretty much is going to take care of the retrofit. These screws right here, if I didn't already mention, those are Torx screws. And it is a Torx T20, so you'll need a T20. Also, to remove the steering wheel, you'll need a 12 spline socket. I bought a set off of Amazon. I did a review of these a while back. It's one of these in here. This is the 14. This is the 10. I believe it's a 12 millimeter 12 spline socket that's used to take the steering wheel off. For removal of the steering wheel, I used a video that's on YouTube to inform myself on how to remove the airbag. It's a real simple procedure. It took me 5 minutes. You just need to turn the steering wheel like so on the steering column, extend it out, tilt it down, and you get a flat-bladed screwdriver back in this hole right here. There's a little metal tab, and you just have to pry the tab down, and this part of the airbag will pop out. Turn the steering wheel the other way and repeat the process. I'll link to that video because I'm actually didn't make a video for that portion of the airbag removal. The spline as well as the steering wheel has alignment notches, which you may or may not be able to see right there. So it's real easy to get the steering wheel realigned if you take it off and put it back on. Last thing to note, unlike some of the other steering wheel retrofits I've done, mainly on Mercedes, those bolts are on so tight you need a breaker bar. This bolt, I just used a regular 3/8 socket wrench and the 12 spline 12 millimeter socket, and it was on tight and it has Loctite on it, but I was able to break it free without a breaker bar. Mercedes they torque those things down really hard. Obviously Volkswagen doesn't torque them down as much. So you should be able to get the steering wheel off. I think I got the airbag and the steering wheel off in like 10 or 15 minutes. So it was probably one of the quickest steering wheel removals that I've ever done, and it was pretty much hassle-free. So I'll link to that video. Anyway, I'm gonna go put this back on the car, and I'll do a short video of this on the car so you can see what it looks like, and we'll come back to that shortly. Okay, transitioning over to handheld. Hopefully this is steady enough. Don't have a lot of light in this area, so this is about as best I can do. I couldn't actually test the buttons beforehand. The airbag would need to be hooked up and plugged in, and of course I'd have to reconnect the battery. So I went ahead and put it all back together and reconnected the battery and turned it on, and of course everything works exactly how it should. So there were no hiccups there. I didn't expect there to be any problems since I swapped over all the internals of the original wheel, and those were all working correctly. So I did also put some leather conditioner, some Lexol leather conditioner on it, because this steering wheel has been sitting around for a while, and not that it was dried out, but it definitely needed some conditioning. It was stored very well wherever it was stored, probably on some dealer's shelf somewhere in a box. But hit it up with some leather conditioner, and we're good to go. So everything checked out. Of course, no airbag light because the battery was disconnected, and we plugged it back in, reconnected the battery. Of course, when you reconnect the battery, you've got to go through the learning process on your windows and power seats and so on if you have those. Something to keep in mind. There's a process for doing that, and it's in your owner's manual. But that's going to pretty much wrap up this retrofit of the Mark 5 GTI steering wheel into the Mark 5 Volkswagen EOS, and the swapping over of the existing radio control buttons, the control module, and the EOS V6 steering wheel emblem. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you found something useful in this video for your next car mod.